All right, students, today I'm going to show you how to model a chess piece, and we'll be basing it on this image of the pawn. You can see in my drawing window I've got a couple of pawns. All I did is I modeled one and then I duplicated, and I've actually created a chessboard. And at the end of this, we'll actually render this image out so that instead of taking screenshots, we can convert our images into JPEGs or PNGs and upload those to Canvas and your Weebly site. All right, so we'll start with a new file. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split this into two screens. So I take my cursor and I'm going to move it into the upper right corner. You'll notice that as I get it in this upper right corner, I get a plus sign. Again, I have the arrow here and I get it up in there and I get that plus sign. I click and drag to split the screen. All right, in this left panel, I want to bring in the image that is the piece that I have you download from Canvas. So we're going to go and switch over to Image Editor. And I want to place an image. So I'm going to open. I want to find that image. In this case, I have it in a folder already. And I'm looking for this Jacques Cook Staunton.jpg. I'll open the image, and there it is in the image editor. And again, all we're really focusing on is this pawn. So I'm going to slide it over. I could zoom in so I get a better look at it, right? I can adjust the width of the panel here so I have more room to work with my drawing over here. First thing we'll do in this panel is delete the cube. To delete something, you have to select it. And once I do that, I can hit X, and I've chosen to delete it. The next step is to add a cylinder, so Shift A, and I'm looking to add a mesh and a cylinder, right? I'm going to look at this object from the front view. So I hit the number 1, and you can see I'm now in the front orthographic mode. I want to move the object up so the base of the cylinder is on this red line, or what would be the surface of the plane. So in picking this, I can hit grab and select the Z axis, and I want to move it up basically one Blender cube. So if I hit 1 and enter, it moves it up to where I need it to be. At this point, you probably should save. You've done a little bit of work. We don't want to lose that. All right, and now I want to model this thing. So I need to go into edit mode. To get into edit mode, I select the object and I hit the tab key, or I can change it up here. So I'll do it two ways. I pick the object and I can go to edit mode here. And what I want to do is I want to take this top part of the cylinder and press it down. So I need to deselect everything, and I'm going to select my face selection, and I'll pick on the face. Might as well zoom in here a little bit. I want to press this down, so I'm going to hit grab, Z, and push it down. So if I go back to front orthographic mode, it's now a disc similar to a coin. And so now I got to start taking a look at this. And we're going to model it, and there'll be some sharp edges, but at the end we'll be able to smooth some of those edges out. This now becomes a function of extruding and scaling. So back where I can pick the surface, again, surface selection, I'm going to hit the letter E, which is for extrude. My blue line is already there, which allows me to pull up, and it's made another section of this. If the blue line isn't there, after you hit E, hit the letter Z. So what I'm trying to do now is pull this up, and then I will scale it in so that I get a little lip here. I actually might bring it up, scale it out, bring it up again, and then scale it in. So I could actually do this. I could scale the surface, but I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to, again, hit E. I got the blue line there, so I go up, and I'm going to scale in so I get a little lip there. And basically what I'm doing is this right here. I'll extrude up again, and I'll scale out. I'm scaling out by hitting S. So I flip-flop back and forth between the front orthographic mode to compare my pawn to this piece. I'm now going to work again on bringing this in. So I'll try and scale it in here a little bit. So I'll extrude up again, click, S for scale, and start to bring it in. Extrude up a little bit again, maybe a little more this time, scale in. Extrude up. I'm right around here right now, so maybe I scale it out just a notch. Extrude up again. Bring it back in. Extrude. So now I'm getting to, the middle part of the pawn. Scale in, extrude up again, scale in a little bit. Oh, let's try that again. Not too much. Extrude up a notch, and you can see it starts to flare out, so I'll scale out a little bit. Take a look at it from the front. Now I want to work on this section. Extrude up, scale it out, extrude up, scale it in. At this point, what I want to do is I want to merge this at its center point, and then what I'll do is I'll add a ball, and then I'll join these two objects together. To merge, we need to go up to our mesh menu, and I want to find merge at center. And you can see that those vertex points have now come together. I'll undo what I did. This is not still selected. Merge or mesh, merge at center. Okay. I'm happy with that at this point. I'll get out of edit mode. I want to add a ball, but I want to add it separately. So I want to deselect this piece at this point. Shift A to add a mesh. So Shift A, mesh, and a UV sphere. I'm going to grab it and move it up along the Z-axis. I want to see how it looks from the front view. Obviously, that's way too big in comparison to this, so I'll just scale the whole thing down. Grab it, Z, move it down, and I think that's looking pretty good. I want to make sure, whoa. Looks pretty close. The one thing I was trying to do is make sure that the ball is inside or a little bit below the top of the surface of the pawn here to make sure it's connected. So I'm going to grab it, bring it down just a little bit just to make sure that it's inside of there. Take a look at it from the front. Grab it again. Something like that. Now I'm going to join these two pieces. So I select the second piece by shift clicking. They're both selected, and I can join them by using the function or keyboard shortcut of Control J, and you can see that they join together. If I undo what I did here, I have the cylinder and the sphere, but they're both selected. You can tell that because they're both highlighted. Control J will join them now into the cylinder. We're going to mess around with making this a little smoother. So what I want to do at this point is add what's called a subdivision surface modifier. In my properties panel, this is everything here is now related to this. I'm going to go to this wrench icon. It's the modifiers properties. I want to add a modifier, and I'm looking for subdivision surface modifier, which smooths it out just a little bit. Looks like it added like a little bump out on the bottom, but I'm not too worried about that. I want to right click on the object now, and we're going to smooth it even farther by smooth shading, Not too thrilled with this. So if you don't like it at that point, you can always undo it. Looks like it got rid of some of my inset here. But again, we can still kind of play around with this as needed. The last thing I want to do is I want to add a color to it. So I'm going to, I don't really need this anymore. Let's see if I can join this here. That was the mistake. That's a big mistake. Let's see if I can turn this back into the 3D viewport. And I want to apply a color to it, and I want to see the color actually with one of these shaders. So with the object, looks like I undid that. Let's go back, Control J, join it. Down here are my material properties. So I'm going to click on that. I want to add a new material. And what we're looking for is our base color. So if I want to make this like a tan, double click in here and choose something like that. But for me to see it, I need to pick on the viewport shading button here. And now you can kind of see that. If we scroll down here, the specular setting is the shininess of it. So if I want this pawn piece to look really shiny or glossy, I would bump that setting up there. Now the camera is looking probably down at the base. If I hit 0, yeah, we want to see the whole thing. Go back and smooth this if I can. And what I want to do is I want that camera line of sight to be looking at the whole pawn if I can. So I'm going to select the camera, and I want to go into, again, my property settings. And this time, since I have the camera selected, the property settings are now for the camera. I'm looking for viewport display. I want to expand this, and I want to check box on limits. And it shows me exactly the line of sight of the camera. So if I can rotate this up or move it up, we get a better example or a better path so we can see the entire chess piece. So let's take a look at it now. Looks like I'm still a little low. I'm going to hit 5 here. Bring this up a notch just a little bit. And let's pull this out a bit. Still in the center, looking good. Let's take a look at it. Now I'm happy with it. Okay. Now, if you understand that, we could add squares, duplicate the squares, apply different colors to the squares to make that chessboard itself. And that's what I did when I showed you the graphic in the beginning of the example. So if you want to go ahead and do that, you can do that. I'm not requiring it, but I think it just tends to make everything look a little bit better when we're modeling pieces. At this point, what I want to do is I want to render the image. So I go up to Image or Render Image. Looks fine. I go to Image, Save As. It's saving it as a ping image. I want to make sure it's going into my folder. And that folder, again, is on the desktop for me. Select my, go backwards here, chess piece folder. Here are my possible file formats. You have a bunch here. I would suggest that you're using either PNG or JPEG. I'll call this chess piece test. Save image. And if I go to my folder now, there's the image right there. So if I double click on it, it'll probably open it up in a preview. And that's exactly what I just modeled. I hope this helps. If you have problems,